someone is in the waiting room and you get a notification. I'm not sure if I can see that while sharing my screen. So if anyone would give a shout out, that would be amazing. All right, welcome all to the kickoff of Summerchamp. Happy to host to you guys. And let me start by introducing myself for those who do not know. My name is Hidde Boerma. I'm actually a son of two wholesalers. So I grew up in and around wholesale. I'm also a former founder of my own clothing brand, and I've owned two concept stores, also selling many of the brands that are also on our marketplace. Speaking of marketplaces, I've also had some experience at other marketplaces, at Lease a Bike and at HelloPrint, in completely different segments, but the same concept. And now I'm head of sales at Orderchamp, and really happy to be here. And this is basically where all my previous experiences are coming together. So that's really nice. Then why are we doing this? And that's basically because there are some current developments. We've done two B2B Next sessions. Not everyone will be aware of what B2B Next is. And this is basically a new concept that we launched in March of this year. And the first two sessions were for Dutch and Belgian partners only. Due to logistics, we had two sessions here at our office in Amsterdam, which was really, really nice. I think we had in two sessions over 50 brands joining, but also around 8 partners that we work with closely. And during those sessions, we got a lot of feedback on obviously also our solutions, but also what our partners and customers are struggling with and where they need help with. So that's also something that we incorporated in this Summerchamp campaign. Next to that, we are close to launching the Marketplace V2. I will tell a little bit more about that later, but that's really, really exciting. There's a lot of work being done behind the scenes that will benefit you in terms of your workload, but also in terms of the success, hopefully. And then lastly, Orderchamp Cloud is now really maturing as a software solution. We have a lot of our marketplace partners that are also using our cloud tools. So I'll also tell you a little bit more about that later on. Then shortly, the program for the upcoming week. So we're now in week 1, where the kickoff is actually the kickoff. And then next week, we're going to do some onboarding sessions for everyone that's interested in our B2B portal. And really interesting, and this is also based on, I think, the most feedback during B2B Next. We're going to share an AI starter guide. So we learned that a lot of our brands are using AI, but are not really sure if they're using it properly or how to actually get started and leveraging the full power of AI. Then the week after, it's all about our sales app that you can use during trade shows. With trade show season coming up, that seemed like a good idea to show one more time. And then we're moving on to the phase 2, which is all about the marketplace and the new marketplace. So we're going to do a lot of account check-ins where you can learn everything that's new and how to optimize your listings in your shop. The week after, we're also going to tell you how you can improve your ranking. So we also have a new algorithm that can put you in front of more new customers. And then lastly, we're going to deep dive into all the marketing features that we have and how you get more impressions on the marketplace. Like mentioned in the PDF file and in the invitation email, nothing is mandatory, but we strongly advise you to at least do as much as possible. Then really short on the offers. So we have a new plan. We call it Cloud Flex. So for 49 euros, you get access to our B2B portal and our sales app. there's a variable fee of normally 2%, but during Summerchamp it's 1%. So this is an ideal subscription model if you're not really sure if our solution is the right solution for you, or if you actually need a B2B portal or a sales app. So if you're interested, let me know. We also have our Cloud Fixed plan. So that's basically the Cloud Starter plan. That's usually 249 euros a month. We're now giving that for 3 months at 250 euro, and there's no commitment after. So again, yeah, if you're curious about our solutions, this is a great way to get to know it. And then lastly, the marketplace, the new marketplace, you will get priority access to all the new benefits, be easier to climb the ranking. You also get a lot of new features, which I will touch base on a bit more later on. Then now, so I explained a bit about B2B Next, and I also gave a presentation during B2B Next, and I thought it would be a fitting starting point to kick this off here as well. For those who didn't hear it in the beginning, I am recording this session, and we also share this session after the meeting is finalized, so that everyone that couldn't join is also able to see what we talked about. So, Wholesale 2.0. This is how we see the future of wholesale. And to start, I want to talk about what's happening in the world right now. And it's actually quite a lot. And unfortunately, not everything is positive. So we have an insane high number of conflicts currently. And it's actually the highest number since World War II. And one of them that touches all of us is, of course, what's happening in the Hormuz Strait. Next to that, we have Trump that launched the whole tariff war. We had a record-breaking heat wave in Europe. And very recently, a new dictatorship is born in Nicaragua. And on top of that all, the Dutch Lions really disappointed during the World Cup. And yeah, that's resulting in a couple of things. Political unrest, fear amongst consumers. There's a scarcity of raw materials, rising energy prices, which on their turn also result in rising transport costs. And then on top of that, we all have the import and export tariffs to deal with. But luckily, there's also good stuff happening in the world. And our battle against poverty is leading to a new record low. So from 1990, we were at 43% of extreme poverty. We're now back to 10%, which is still too high, but it's at least a step in the right direction. And next to that, our climate is improving. So the ozone hole is recovering and is expected to fully recover to its normal situation as it was in the 80s of the previous millennium. Then Japanese scientists, they discovered a new plastic that can actually dissolve in ocean water. Again, proving that science can do amazing things. And talking about science, we're at the start of the AI boom. And I want to talk a bit more about this part because it's actually quite impressive what you can do nowadays with AI. And also how it's adopted. So this is a nice graph that shows how soon the adoption to 100 million user was for some of the tools that we all know. So if you look at Spotify, it took them 11 years to reach 100 million users. Facebook did it in 4.5 years. ChatGPT did it in 2 months. And it's not only the adoption that's very, very fast, it's also what it does. So this is a video of Will Smith generated by AI back in 2023. In 2024, it already got a bit better. Still not good, but 2025 started really to look like the actual Will Smith. And this is this year.
But did you know that all this audio was also generated in the same prompt? I guess I didn't say. Study harder, kid. Eat your spaghetti.
Yeah, I think this is quite amazing, and it's still every day improving and improving and improving. And then the funny thing is, AI for boomers still is ChatGPT, or what people now say chat. But there's so much more available for every different type of project that you want to run or improvement that you want to make. There's so many tools available that can help you out in your day-to-day work or in your analytics or wherever you see fit. And we're also going to help you with this a bit. So, what's happening in our market? And also here, there's a lot that's happening. And we go back a few years, the normalization after the pandemic. We all experienced rapid online growth during COVID, but that also led to excess inventories after the 2022 crash. And then we had rising costs and inflation, high interest rates, and unfortunately also a wave of bankruptcies that we still see going on right now, with a lot of big names unfortunately having to cease their operation. Luckily, also brands that are coming back like Riviera Maison, but nevertheless, it's shocking to see. And then if we look at trade fairs, they are turning more inspirational instead of transactional. At least that's what we're hearing when we're visiting trade shows. So there's fewer orders written on the fair floor, and brands are becoming also more selective with trade shows they are attending. And that means that online alternatives are very, very important. And we also see that those trade shows are consolidating. So we see Trends and Show Up in the Netherlands that are doing their first trade show in a few weeks. But we also saw that earlier with Ambiente and Christmas World merging into one big trade show. Then re-commerce is rising very, very rapidly. So this is a movement against overconsumption, which I think is a good thing. It's also a more sustainable and cheaper alternative, but it's also a threat for wholesale and retail, of course. And yeah, there's a lot of marketplace style software builders coming up. So we all know Vinted, of course, but you also have Woppa, and in the Netherlands you have Marketplace, which have been a very strong party for many, many years. But I even saw recently that there's now lost parcels that are being resold by shops on the street. So yeah, overconsumption is still a big issue. And that's also fueled by mass production that we see mainly from China, right? The Shein's, the Temu's, the AliExpresses, with prices that consumers actually cannot make sense of, but also unfortunately a lot of imitation. So that continues to be a struggle, and luckily Europe is now making some efforts into reducing whatever is coming in from China, but still it's way too much. And then we have social media, which is basically showing how the new generation is shopping. So TikTok Shop is now starting. I need to accept some people in. So TikTok Shop is now starting in the Netherlands as well, and influencers are selling directly to their followers, and they're also creating hypes that it's impossible to move on such a hype because it's so short. So that's also something that you have to take into account. And all of this is leading to a channel conflict where we see that wholesale is chasing margin, and they're doing this by also going direct to the consumer, both online and physical, but also selling more on B2C marketplaces. Whilst retail is giving ground, they're having a smaller share of the market, and not every retailer can combine both physical and online. So strategic retailers are becoming more important. But luckily, we also see some good trends. So 80% of the consumer retail still happens in physical stores, whilst 5%, the growth of B2B e-commerce went 5 times up over the past 10 years, meaning that 80% of wholesale transactions will be digital. At least that's the expectation of Gartner. Now, who is the B2B buyer of 2030? And this was also something we discussed during B2B Next. And we think that next to the retailer, there's a couple of different types of B2B buyers that are interesting. Obviously, you have the online stores that probably a lot of you are already working with, but you can also look at hospitality, right? Restaurants, hotel chains, but even the professionals, making sure that you help out with creating nice office environments. And that's everything that can be in scope as long as you have the right sales channels and the right sales tools. Now, what does this new B2B buyer of 2030 expect? Well, they're expecting to be able to buy data-driven and at high speed, but also to have a more personal experience where they can automate as much as they want without hassle, and they want to be able to self-serve, right? So not having to call or send an email, and allowing for smart buying will probably result in higher and better orders. So what is the status quo? Well, the market is under pressure, but there's a lot of opportunities. Right, so the traditional wholesale models are changing. That's what we're noticing in every conversation that we're having. But physical retail remains essential. And I think that the new audiences that you just saw also offer new opportunities. And whilst wholesale is struggling, it's still a very strong strategic choice. And we saw that even Nike tried to cut out wholesale and go directly to the consumer, but that backfired massively. So now they're back into retail. So how do you make your wholesale ready for the future? Well, there's a couple of things that we think are important. And the first of them is to have control over your sales channels. Next, a smart and automated operation, a customer journey that lifts your conversion, the ability to serve every audience, but also every type of buyer, right? So you don't want to change the way your buyer wants to buy, right? You need to change the way your buyer can buy. And acquisition channels that actually reinforce each other instead of competing with each other. And all of this should either result in a cost optimization or in growth. Now, if we look at wholesale in a nutshell, it's quite simple, right? So you have a producer, you have a wholesaler, you have a retailer, and it ends up at a consumer. But the reality is a lot complexer. So between the producer and a wholesaler, there's a carrier that has to ship the products. And then from a wholesaler, it can go either to a distributor, a marketplace, an agent, or to an online store. And then you have fulfillment, obviously, to the retailer. But is that the retailer, or is it directly to the consumer? Or is it maybe the professional or the hospitality that we just spoke about? And yeah, that means that it's still a very, very complex operation. And some of the pain points that we still hear all the time are, I'm losing so much time on processing manual orders, or I have too little control over purchasing and inventory, or I pay a top price for tools that I barely use. And yeah, I think that's unnecessary. So you should optimize. And when we look at optimization at Orderchamp, there's 4 base principles that we always keep in the back of our heads. Because it should either save time, it should avoid risk, it should reduce costs, or it should realize growth. And then, yeah, you might be thinking, might there be an all-in-one solution? And I was at a customer recently that was having conversations with SAP to be their all-in-one solution. So they would do accounting, the purchasing, their WMS, their B2B portal, and also their CRM. Then I was asking questions, is that really everything? And by the way, the starting price was 100K to set it up and 20K per year to keep it running. But then they still didn't have a PIM. They didn't have their marketplaces and integrators. They didn't have a sales app, and they didn't have dropship software. And to be frank, the perfect decathlete also doesn't exist. So Kevin Meyer, he's the best decathlete ever, with an amazing track record. But if you look at all these disciplines individually, there's always someone that's faster or can jump higher or further. And that's the same with software. But where do you start? There's so many tools available. And I think many of you see multiple tools that you've either worked with or are working with. And if we look at a tech stack setup that we see traditionally, it mostly consists of very heavy tools built on older legacy ERP systems, right? And during one of our B2B Next sessions, we actually had a brand that had exactly this setup. And that's something that evolves over time, right? So you start with a couple of tools, and then you need something, you add a tool, and you add another tool, and then over time it becomes very cluttered. And then basically those tools, they stop working and stop talking to each other. And that's what you need to have a good overview and also have a more cost-efficient setup. So what we now see a lot is a way more flexible tech stack and a way smaller tech stack. So you could have an Exact as your accounting system and also your CRM. And then one of our partners, Stock It Up, can be your OMS, your WMS, your integrator, and can help you with purchasing and also be your PIM in not too long, because that's something they're building. And then us as Orderchamp can be your marketplace, your B2B portal, your sales app, and help you with your dropshipping software. And this is actually a very good starting point that we see more and more between our brands currently. And then from there, if you want to grow or you have other things that you want to explore, you can add on to that. So if you want to be able to do your purchasing a lot better, you can think about a company called Optiply, which are our recent new neighbors in our office, actually. And if you want to manage more marketplaces and also B2C marketplaces, you can think about Channel Engine to help you out in that part. But it starts with going back to what you actually need, and then from there build your tech stack up in a more sustainable manner. So in short, which levers can you pull? The first one is optimizing your tech stack, make it flexible but powerful. The second one is really keep it simple and only expand in your tooling when you really, really need it. And choose the best partners for every stage of that growth, right? So as soon as you're starting to grow, really look at who is the partner that can help me in this phase, but also in the next phases to come. And most importantly is automate, automate, automate. And I actually ask my team every day, guys, whenever you do something for the second time today, the same thing, let's talk about automation. Because in this day and age, that's not necessary anymore. So how does Orderchamp fit into this whole picture? Basically, Orderchamp can help out from acquisition to automation. And I think most of you are aware that we are a marketplace first and foremost, and we're actually reinventing that marketplace. But we also launched Orderchamp Cloud, and that consists of a couple of tools that can help you with your retention and your conversion optimization. So we have a B2B portal that we can build for you basically in a couple of clicks, because we already have your data from the marketplace. We have a tool called AI Order Convert, which can transform any type of text into an actual digital order. So if you still get orders via email or PDF files or Excel files, you can load them into our AI Order Convert tool, and it will generate your digital order in seconds. We have a B2B sales app that you can take with you to wherever you're going, whether it's a showroom or you're going to a customer or to the current trade show season. And then we have dropshipping software that can help you out with actually giving all your retailers access to also selling online. And lastly, we have a growing partnership and integrations network. So we're building that out every single week with new partners that can help you out in parts where we cannot, and make sure that they talk to our systems as good as possible. And AI makes this a lot a lot easier. So in terms of features, we're developing like crazy, and it's just a small list of what we did in the past 2 weeks, all keeping in mind that it should either save time, avoid risk, reduce costs, or drive growth. And that brings us to our roadmap to Wholesale 2.0. And starting on the cloud side, we have our B2B portal that we think should even be more flexible and be able to do more automations and better reporting, and also give you behavioral data on your customers that you can analyze. We have our sales app where we just launched also an agent and rep module. So if your agents are also attending trade shows, they only get access to their own customers. And we've added some customer insights, but we even want to improve that further. On the integrations part, I just quickly explained, but we're going to add even more integrations and further expand the partner ecosystem, which can also result in an actual deal. So I'm going to share with you a deal from our partner SendCloud that's actually willing to do a free audit of all your current carrier costs and to see if they can help out with optimizing there. Then we have the marketplace 2.0, as we're going to call it, or V2. That will also have a new business model. We're actually looking to lower the commissions that you're paying. And in return, we hope that you will be more inclined to do more with our marketplace as well. So we're looking for a better collaboration, and we're going to provide you the tools to also do that, and potentially even to discover new audiences. So what we just talked about, hospitality or businesses, maybe we're going to do something with that in the future as well. And then we have our AI order convert, right? So if you're at a trade show and you're still writing manually, you can even use that and convert it to an order in our system. And lastly, the dropship automation. We're going to continue that service, and it's actually a very good solution if you also want to offer your physical retailers the ability to start exploring online. And then future innovations, yeah, we're more and more basing that on B2B Next community input. So the next session that we're going to do is going to be in English, so that more people can also make sense of what we're saying. We're probably also going to do that online and physical as well, but more on that to come. If you want to sign up already, it's already available. I think the URL is orderchamp.cloud/B2B Next. But I'll send you a link after this webinar as well. And then, yeah, Marketplace 2.0. So what are we doing? A lot of groundwork currently, so behind the scenes. The goal is to make it faster, smarter, and more personal. And we've been playing around with AI for many months, but also on this new improved marketplace. And I'm going to show you a couple of concepts that we're thinking about adding. And don't hold me to it, but we will try our best to add as much relevant features as possible. And the first one is an AI assistant living in your Orderchamp back office that can help you out with changing your product information or doing analysis on your customers. And this is something that's quite feasible and that we're definitely are adding in the future. And again, yeah, this can save you a lot of time, but also give you incredible, nice insights. So that's something that's coming up, at least. And then the next one, this is a bit more conceptual still, but we might add a functionality where you can actually generate images or transform your images, so you can make nice collection images if you have a Christmas collection coming up, right? So we don't expect you to do all of your product images inside of Orderchamp, but it makes it at least a lot easier to adapt some of your images to do proper marketing, for example. And then lastly, and this is actually a very cool one, we're thinking about launching some sort of feed on the marketplace, so for the retailer, where you can actually post all your updates, right? If you have new products or a new collection that you're launching, or I don't know, a promotion even. And the goal is to keep those retailers coming back more frequently to see what's happening with the brands that they actually like and the brands that they follow, but even brands outside of that, right? So more in line with what we see on Instagram. That you obviously also see a lot of information on your feed that you're not actually following, but you are interested in. And that's basically it. Or at least that's it for the presentation part. And I would now be very happy to take any questions, if any. I don't see any questions in the chat. I don't hear anyone. I'm going to give it a few more seconds. Obviously, if you come up with questions after this session, feel free to send me an email or to give me a call. But yeah, that was basically it. So thank you all very much for joining. Again, this has been recorded, so I will share this as well. I will also share the slides with you. And yeah, coming up next week, so we'll share a video of all the new features that are in the B2B portal, and we share the AI documentation. So if you're not really using AI or properly using AI yet, look at that. And we're actually using AI to create this AI starter guide, but you can also use AI to help you get set up. So it's basically knowing what to prompt and how to prompt that will help you get set up for the future. So that's coming up. Once again, thanks everyone. Have a lovely day and an even more lovely weekend. And hopefully we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.